don't know. I guess I decided to participate in a humiliation ritual tonight. We're back here for the conference finals, and we've got not one. We're running the three-man weave. We got two guests tonight, but one of whom is a Knicks fan. So I guess he just wants to rub salt in the wound. I'm sure for other people, they're going to be thrilled to know I brought another Sixers fan on the podcast too. I can hear our listeners groaning already. But podcast debuts tonight for my guys, Andrew Fehr and Mason Switsky. Welcome to the podcast. Full disclosure, these boys were in the literal trenches with me of law school at Rutgers. We all made it out together. Have all passed the bar exam. Life is good. But first time on the podcast for these two. So, they said if Justin's ever unavailable, like put us in the game coach. I called their bluff. We're in the game coach now. Our guy, Justin, off for the weekend. He's got a lot going on. He's running a touch of truck last weekend. Like Justin, just one of the hardest working guys in the industry, no doubt about it. But, we're going to talk some Eastern Conference Finals first for warm up jumpers. And so, of course, I will start with Mason. The Knicks have 1-0, massive comeback win in game one against the Cavs, who were fresh off their huge game 7 win over the Pistons. Just 22-point fourth quarter comeback, end up winning the game in overtime by double digits. Jalen Brunson who looked like he was in a fryer for the first 3 quarters. It just puts on an absolute clinic and reverses it on James Harden, who was getting burnt. Look, it's hard for me to think the Cavs are going to get off the mat after that. When you lose such an emotional game like that, what do you think? Like, what changed in that fourth quarter, Mason, that you didn't see in the first 3 quarters? Like, why do you feel like that it just suddenly clicked? Was it as simple as the Knicks just waking up and, having such a long layoff and finally getting their legs back a little bit, or what did you notice?
Well, all right. First, I want to say thank you for having me on the podcast, Kevin. I do appreciate it. I have mentioned over the past several years, if I could ever pinch hit, I would love to. So, big thank you for having me. To answer your question, I think, honestly, I would argue I think it's more of an adjustment by Mike Brown during those last minutes. So obviously Donovan Mitchell hits that huge 3, puts them up 22 with 7.5 left in the fourth, give or take. And really, I think they called the timeout. And immediately Brunson gets the ball in his hands every possession. If Harden's not on him initially, they screen to go after Harden. So I really think a lot of what they did was the Cavs are a great defensive team. That whole starting 5 is, you can, in the regular season, you're able to hide a guy like James Harden off the ball, maybe stick him in the corner on another wing play or something like that. And I think sort of forcing Harden to pick up Brunson every possession. And Brunson, as we all know, king of tough shots. He feels like every time he puts the ball up, it's going in. And every time he put the ball up in those last 7.5 minutes, it went in. So you can really see that they really started to attack Harden down the stretch. And it was, from there, Landry Shamet hits that huge 3. The 3 at the end of the game goes in and out. Mike Breen sort of a premature bang that he takes back. I've never seen that before. That's crazy. But yeah, I think it was really just attacking Harden. I think I don't know if maybe they wanted to use that later in the series or something like that. But if a team in the playoffs, especially in the conference finals, has a weakness, it's your job as a coach, it's your job as a team, it's your job as players. You gotta attack it, and they did, and it worked out.
Well, Kenny Atkinson, I think, has done a pretty good job at pushing the buttons for the Cavs in this playoff run. And I want to give this Cavs score a lot of credit. I've talked smack about them a lot. And to get over the hump and to beat Detroit in a meaningful game, get to the conference finals, I do think they deserve a lot of credit for that. And look, it's hard to argue against using James Harden. Harden post-trade has been so crucial for them. But yeah, I think that was part of the problem. Kenny Atkinson just didn't stop the bleeding fast enough either. By the time they called a timeout, they went to Harden. We're down to single digits. The vibe in the entire building has shifted. They were scoring. They averaged 1.9 points per possession when they attacked Harden on the pick and roll. That is disturbing levels of efficiency for a team that really couldn't hit anything when they were starting it. I don't know. It's just, it feels like, and again, I don't want to blame one person only, but I mean, certainly down the stretch, it really was like they leaned on Harden. And look, there were a couple things that went well. Is obviously too the Bridges shot falling away, getting a good bank there, like you said. Sam Merrill shot, Game 7 hero Sam Merrill shot like halfway down and then just rims out. Sometimes the bounces don't just go your way, but it's tough for me because here now with Cleveland, like that was the game to me because the Knicks were always the favorite in the series. Like I had the Knicks in 6 or 5 really in my head going into this series. And I think for Cleveland, with the Knicks having so much rest post sweep of the Sixers, like this had to be the game where you almost ambushed them a little bit. Like coming off that Game 7, I know you obviously expound a lot of energy doing that, but it's like, hey, with them being this rusty, because that's what it felt like for the first 3 quarters. It's like that's the game that Cleveland has to have. Now the energy around the series is entirely shifted. Frankly, and Mason, this might trigger you a little bit. I'm sorry. I know it was last year, but like it reminded me of when Indy went into the Garden last year. Just takes the soul out of them with that Halley shot, and it felt like the series flipped there. I mean, that's the vibes I have. Andrew, do you think they can get off the mat a little bit? Like, what do you feel about this Cavs team? Or are we like? I feel like they're done. Do you feel like they're done too now?
I think that was the game they needed to win. It feels like the second game of the Flyers versus Carolina, where the Flyers played great, took them to overtime, and their best just wasn't good enough against Carolina, who didn't even play great that game. I don't think the Knicks played their best basketball here either. I think coming out of that Philly series, it looked like they were going to run away with the East, but they didn't play that great. Cavs were the better team for about 70% of that game, and it still wasn't enough. And if the Knicks start playing well like they did last series, I don't see it coming back from Cleveland back to New York. And if it does, it's going to come back 3-1 Knicks. So I think the series is all but over after that game.
Fun fact, it is the 1 year anniversary of the Tyrese Halliburton shot. So thank you for bringing that back up, Kevin. We had just graduated. That was like the day after graduation, day before graduation, something like that. And I was out with Simon actually, at his like apartment in Philly, and I was like in the corner, huddled by the TV, watching the game, like while everyone's out, up talking about what they're doing this summer, and I was watching the next game. And Halliburton hits that shot, and I haven't felt like I was in a great mood. Obviously, big occasion for all three of us. I don't think I have ever felt like happiness evaporate from my body like that. I mean, like the judge, like obviously, like drop fly ball in center field. That's brutal. The in 2014 when the Lundqvist lets in the overtime goal for them to lose the Stanley Cup Finals. That's brutal, but like that, the Halliburton shot, and he puts up the Reggie Miller choking. What a terrible game.
Instant, man. It was the craziest bounce too. And the fact, right, going to the instant choke right away, just letting it know what it was, and then the rub salt in the wound of them reviewing it then for a little bit and seeing if he was even behind the line. But going to that point, like that's kind of where I'm at, where I feel like this sort of emotional punch. It feels like the Knicks, unfortunately, anytime they play the Garden, it feels like something tragic is always happening to them. This kind of like reversed the juju here a little bit. Like that was a very like un-Knicks thing to happen in MSG. And I mean, that's the biggest thing right now too, is look, the vibes around this team are good. Like there's no way around it. It feels like they're clicking at the right time. Like really ever since that Atlanta loss in Game 3, it just, since then, they've switched their identity. They've been able to, have a cohesive, just, the starting lineup has been super efficient, but Mike Brown's been hitting the right buttons too. Taking Josh Hart out of the game, giving Shamet more minutes, who's obviously given them a lot of, he's giving you these moments now in this run where it's one of those where it's like, how has this guy bounced around the league the way he has, going to all these different teams over the year? But it's everybody. There's just the depth is there. It's Deuce McBride one night, who was an excellent game to close out the Sixers. Like there's just, that was always the biggest thing in the past with Tibbs, is like you're grinding the starters down. The depth there, which is probably the most important thing in today's NBA, is more there with this Knicks team. It's more complete. I don't want to like speed run the finals preview. I think we have certainly a long way to go in the Western Conference Finals, which we're going to talk about later. But the Knicks are going to be in for the fight of their lives in that series. Like there's no doubt about it. Like whether it's OKC, whether it's San Antonio, they are going to be the best. Like, they're going to probably be the favorite, and they're going to be the best team the Knicks have faced during this playoff run. But listen, they've got a real shot. Like, it's the best shot the Knicks have had. I mean, frankly, in my lifetime, maybe. I know they made the finals, back in '99, but it just didn't feel like, going up against young Tim Duncan, doesn't really feel like, that team was really good. Obviously, the veteran leadership there too with David Robinson. Like, I don't know. To me, the best case scenario for the Knicks right now, and I don't know, Mace, if you feel this way, is that, you just got to kind of hope this OKC San Antonio series drags out, right? Like, you want that to be a 7-game rock fight.
That's so I sent a text saying the exact same thing yesterday. I was like, I hope this game goes to 7 double overtimes. That series, goes to 7 double overtimes. But going back to your point, I started really watching basketball in like the early 2010s, like right around the Carmelo Anthony trade. This is not only the most well-rounded Knicks team I've seen, it's like the clearest path. Especially coming out of the East that I can remember. It's a weak Eastern Conference. Boston obviously gets bounced early by Philly. The Pistons, who had kind of had their number in the regular season all year, obviously bounced by Cleveland. Orlando didn't really live up to the hype this year. The Sixers, we'll get into the Sixers later, obviously, but the Sixers are the Sixers. It's just the Knicks are playing the best basketball I have seen in my 17 years now watching the NBA, and it has just been an absolute joy to be a part of. Truly. I also, going back to your point about Tibbs and grinding the starters down, like, depth is so important in the NBA now. Like, the Thunder and Pacers don't get to the finals last year without the depth that each team has. And I think it's really evidenced by like a lot of these teams going in on these like big threes, like sort of the late or mid 2010s to like late 2010s of like, you need 3 stars, all of whom like demand the basketball to win. And we saw the Nets big 3 fade out. We saw the Suns big 3 fade out. And it's just, I think the NBA has really caught on to the fact that you don't need a guy on a supermax to compete if you have 3 guys making the same money who can get you real quality minutes off the bench. So the Knicks, it feels like for the first time in a long time, the Knicks have that. And I think that's really where a lot of their success comes from. Like, you can sub out Josh Hart who looks oftentimes abysmal on offense, with Shamet, Deuce McBride, even Jordan Clarkson has looked really, really good with like limited minutes. He was out of the rotation for a while at the end of the season. And it's again, like, I'll reiterate the point. It is like the best Knicks team I have seen in my lifetime.
Yeah, it's the most complete. And I think the biggest thing too is just health here with the OG and Anunoby thing. I think that hamstring strain, you see that in the Sixers series, and it's like, given the quality of minutes that he's given this entire run, that is the sort of injury that can derail a playoff run. Somebody who's so important to that starting lineup. And again, the depth can make up for that. But, you're going to need the full arsenal against whoever comes out of the West. And they appear to have it right now. Like you said, it's Karl-Anthony Towns, too, looking more energized. Like that, that to me has been the other story of this run. Is it's like, Andrew, I texted you this. Like, it feels like Karl-Anthony Towns is just finally being the player that he's been projected to be the entire time. He's always been good, but like him playing meaningful, winning basketball like this is what we've been clamoring for.
I agree, but even last night he kind of looked like he sort of regressed to what we've been seeing. So if he picks it back up like he did last series, there's going to be a blowout or 2 in this series, I think. And it hurts me to say that because I want nothing more than the Knicks to lose.
It's such a weird balance. And like, Andrew, I don't know if you feel this way because, obviously with you being a Philly guy like me for every other sport, like, obviously there's going to be that natural rivalry with the Knicks, though in a weird way, I think the Sixers and Knicks fans have a lot in common too with how their franchises have been over the past few years. It's also just weird to me because like Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns and Mikal Bridges are all huge Eagles fans. So like, you dislike them, but at the end of the day, like, as soon as basketball season ends, my guys are going to be at the link with us, hanging out and, being vocal once it's that time again. So.
And even though I want them to lose, I do want them to win because I think I think the Cavs get swept if they win and go to the finals. Whoever comes out of the West is going to sweep them. I think the Knicks can at least make it a series.
I do. Yeah. The Knicks are for sure the more entertaining. Like the gap between, if you rank the best teams in the playoffs left, like going into these conference finals, like I've still got OKC at 1 with a slight gap over San Antonio. I wouldn't give San Antonio a gap over the Knicks, honestly, but I'm pretty even there at this point. Like I think it's a slight edge for San Antonio, but like I could see the Knicks squeaking in there too when they're going. And then there's a pretty wide gap with Cleveland then. Like Cleveland is by far the worst team left, and it would be an unbelievable achievement if they're able to. I mean, they've already overachieved to me in my eyes. Like Cleveland this season is a success no matter what. If they get to the finals, like we're fully in house money mode.
Yeah, I agree. I had the Spurs. I had the Spurs level with OKC until last night with the extra injuries that they picked up, and I'm still not seeing Fox in the lineup. Hopefully he's back, but I think the Spurs and OKC might be the most evenly matched two teams in a playoff series I've seen and I remember watching in my lifetime.
Electric Western Conference Finals we have going for us. I mean, every game has been. I mean, every game the Spurs and Thunder have played. Thunder playing it's must-watch basketball. Like, despite a lot of the narrative surrounding them, they're a great basketball team.
Hopefully you enjoy the narrative surrounding us here on the Drive and Dish NBA podcast. Welcome, everybody. My name is Kevin Rafuse. Our guy, Justin Cousart, is off for the week, so I got my guys running the three-man weave with me, Andrew Fehr and Mason Switsky, making their podcast debuts. Listen to the podcast wherever you can find a podcast. Leave us a review on iTunes. We will read them on the show. If you're not an Apple user, Google Play Store, Spreaker, Spotify, TuneIn, Amazon Music, Player FM, anywhere you can find a podcast, you can find us. Watch the show on YouTube as well. Just search the Drive and Dish NBA podcast on YouTube, and all our episodes are there. And now a word from our sponsors. All right, so coming back, Western Conference Finals. You don't want to give people all too much in the beginning of the episode, but yeah, we are here officially 1-1. Game 1 narrative, of course, dominated by Victor Wembanyama. Just unbelievable performance. 40 points, 20 rebounds. Just truly an alien-like dominant performance that, we expected him, frankly, to maybe be a few years away from hitting, but here we are. Game 2, OKC gets their must-win bounce back. SGA looking a little more like SGA. But that to me was like, listen, I don't think regular season narrative super matters going into the playoffs. Like, it really is a different animal. I think that it just turns up the intensity is different, because I think that's the story going into this series, right? Is that San Antonio has been the one team who's been able to kind of stop Oklahoma City all year. Like, OKC has run pretty dominant over the league. They're filled with depth. They're the defending champions. Like, we all know what it is with this team, but sometimes matchups matter, and it feels like San Antonio has the personnel to defeat them. Wemby obviously is pretty thoroughly dominated the Chet Holmgren matchup so far in their career, and regular season doesn't really mean too much, but when San Antonio goes in and wins game 1, and if they are able to win that game 2, then I think you got to worry a little bit more about the mental block. And it becomes, hey, does this team really just have our number? Is there nothing we do? So that game 2, like, it's hard to be like, oh, there's a must win, but already this early, especially for a defending champion, but like that game 2 was a must win for OKC. Mm-hmm. And so give them a lot of credit for bouncing back. Obviously, SGA was phenomenal, looking like the MVP that he was announced to be earlier this week. Bought all the guys APs, and not the Swatch APs either. They got the real ones. That's crazy. What a teammate. Got to get your boys, like, got to get your friends like that. Andrew may gotta sneak some watch talk at the end too, but that's an entirely different story. But no, I mean, look, the series so far in 2 games has delivered up to the hype so far. And now go back to San Antonio. I still think you feel great if you're the Spurs. You did your job. You split the series in OKC. I'm interested to see what the response from Wemby is going to be. Andrew, I think you said it a little bit earlier. The other thing too to watch here is De'Aaron Fox. Him not playing so far this series, obviously one of their marquee guys, especially down the closing stretch of games, like a guy who has really been able to take over and provide that instant offense for them. Watching his injury is going to be important here. But that's also where I think you got to feel good in a way. If you're San Antonio, you go, hey, we're split right now. And our probably second best player hasn't even touched the floor in this series. So I don't know, kind of a mixed bag. But, where are we at right now? Like, how do you guys feel about, who should feel better at this point?
I would feel better if I'm the Spurs, only because you basically performed a smash and grab in OKC that first game, and again you're out De'Aaron Fox, who's their number two. It's crazy to say at this point he's a veteran. I mean, at 28 years old, I feel like he just came into the league, but that's how fast time goes at this point. But anytime you can go on the road and at least win one and come back, I think you have to feel pretty good. If they could have won two, I mean, I think the series is over almost at that point because OKC is so good they could come back. But the Spurs feel good in a sense, but they feel bad because they might have two more injuries after last night that could be significant. So I'm worried for them. I think Wemby has to be the best player on the court, and he wasn't last night. It was SGA, and they won. The Spurs, however, have turned the ball over 21 times in both games. That's a serious issue that you can't do against a team like OKC. You might be able to get by against the teams they've beaten so far, but not this team.
I think I disagree with Andrew. I think that the Thunder, should feel better because it's not often we see like a powerhouse get like punched in the mouth like that, and they respond. I think their response shows like a really good sign because like this is a team. I mean, the Thunder's like it feels like they don't lose. Like it really does. Obviously they swept the Lakers last round, and it's a team you don't want to get hot. Similar like Boston, once Boston starts seeing those first few threes drain, like it feels like they can't miss. And I feel like Oklahoma City's the same way. I feel like once they start, building some momentum, they're so tough to stop. Again, we've been talking about depth for a while. Like that's the deepest team in the league. They have lottery picks, not even getting minutes in the playoffs because their roster construction is absurd. Nothing we've ever seen in the NBA. And I think it's going to be, game three, obviously they just lost, but I think game three, especially in San Antonio, it was always going to be a question of can the Spurs hang on? And game one sort of gave them a little bit of that buffer. I think game three is really where we're going to see what each of these teams have for the rest of the series. And we've been talking about Victor Wembanyama a lot, like Alien. I think I'm going to talk to him, to my kids, about how our grandfathers probably talked to our dads about Will Chamberlain. Like it's just he's moving different. 7'4", shooting tie-breaking threes or game-tying threes from the logo. I know they made the logos a lot bigger over the last few years, so that doesn't really mean as much. But the things he can do on a basketball court are nothing we've ever seen before. And
no, it was outrageous. It broke my brain. Like that, the pull-up three, it's not just because first off, the audacity of that shot. Like that's a shot that unless you're Steph Curry, who also hit one from a pretty famous one from there in OKC, you're not really thrilled with that. You go, that's a horrible shot. But if Wemby's saying that, like you have to be so. Like you can't just sit in the paint with Wembanyama because I think that's what we saw in game one. He roasted Hartenstein in game one. And I think that was, if anything, give him a lot of credit for bouncing back in game two because he's been one of OKC's best defenders all year. But the problem is with Wemby is right. You can't just sit in the paint because like Wemby's okay just to pick you off in the paint every single time too. But if he's able to, you have to be able to space the floor a little bit or to be able to get him out on the perimeter. And that's when he's able to hit that, it breaks the game and it loosens things up so much. He is going to have to go full alien mode here, I think, a little bit in game three, because especially with Dylan Harper, like Andrew mentioned earlier, if Dylan Harper isn't playing game two, he was already starting for De'Aaron Fox in game two. Like you have to get him going. Like, he needs to be there a little bit. You know, I know Castle's done a phenomenal job too, obviously, in this series, especially in game 2. The nasty poster, you know, leading the way scoring wise. You know, the Spurs are not just going to roll over, but like, yeah, it's going to be your margin of error without Fox and Harper against a team who has just so many options like this. I mean, you even got Alex Caruso going for 30 points in game 1. Like, it's just, I mean, Mitchell filling in for Jalen Williams for the first 2 rounds of those playoffs, and then Jalen Williams sliding right back in. Like, there is the margin for error is so slim for other teams when they play OKC because of all this depth. And that's before, you know, you have a franchise like the Sixers gifting you a Jared McCain as well at the deadline. Like, you just, you know, it's going to be, the injuries are going to be the big thing to watch for sure. I do think that's the to keep an eye on for the rest of the series. Like, I think the Spurs at full health can absolutely hang. And this is still very, like, going back to San Antonio, you feel great still. I feel very good if I'm the Spurs. I could absolutely see them splitting here. OKC, yeah, I mean, if you go out, the best case scenario for them, of course, is go out, you get game 3 and game 4. And then I think at that point you're cruising. Like, I don't think they're getting 3-1 by anybody. I was interested to see if they would keep going smaller on Wemby with Hartenstein struggles in game 1. They got a little bit back to earth there in game 2.
Mm-hmm.
I'm interested. I'm interested to see whether they continue to kind of go small, you know, throw a combo of like Caruso and Case and Wallace at him. Or if they try to keep going big the rest of the series. Listen, I mean, you just got to annoy him enough that at least you can chase him around on the perimeter, make him work for it. Like, you're obviously not going to stop him, but I don't know what you do to stop him. Like, I was trying not to overreact. I'm glad I had some time to cool down, honestly, after game 1, because like I was talking crazy after the first game with that Wemby performance. Because like the path is there to be in that tier. And we know what tier I'm talking about. Like, the top, like, the best tier in basketball is the MJ LeBron tier. I don't think many players have the path to get there. And, you know, I don't want to make those grand pronouncements because it's so early in his career. But he's the first kind of while where I'm like, yo, the path is there if everything goes right. Like, if he's able to stay healthy. I mean, going into the season, I've said this a zillion times, but like Justin and I, when the season started, it was like, hey, let's see the Spurs take a step. They haven't made the playoffs yet. Let's see them get into a play-in game. Let's see Wemby start to play some meaningful basketball. And there's a real chance they win the finals. Like, if this kid wins the finals at 21, look out.
The rest of the league is in a lot of trouble. And I think I kind of just want to comment to you how good, you mentioned Dylan Harper before, how good has Dylan Harper looked this year? Like, no, I think a lot of people really, this is his rookie year. This is his rookie year. He looks so comfortable.
How did Rutgers not make the tournament with Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey? Like, what were we doing?
Well, Harper was hurt, I think, for most of, or if not just a lot of the season, and it was mostly Ace Bailey running the floor with guys who I don't think are even playing as high as like Big Ten basketball anymore. Like, I think a lot of those guys have either left and transferred somewhere like worse. Steve Peikiel is also, you know, not, he might not be it, you know, it was real grand homecoming for him, but I think that experiment might be done.
Brother, you had 2 top 5 picks and you didn't make the NCAA tournament.
They didn't play together. I think they played like a handful of games together. Listen, Ace Bailey, you know, say what you will, Ace Bailey looked unreal for Rutgers. They couldn't win games.
Yeah. I mean, Ace Bailey has been, I mean, obviously the narrative around Ace Bailey shrunk big time, leading up to draft night and everything like that. But you know, he's quietly, like, he came around in Utah. Like, Ace Bailey he looks like a guy again a little bit. Like, I don't know, you know, because he slid. I mean, there were a lot of people who, I mean, he was the pencil-in for that 3 spot for a while. And then it just, those last few weeks, it's obviously for the Sixers, 0 regrets with VJ Edgecombe. You're thrilled about how that turned out.
I don't think it really helped his image too, like on draft night being like, I don't want to play for the Jazz. Like, I mean, I know no one wants to play for the Utah Jazz, but that to me is, you know, you're given like a a rare opportunity to play professional basketball. Like you can at least fake it for like the cameras.
Yeah, you got to fake the funk a little bit. Like we all know what it is. They release the polls every year about where the guys don't want to play and where they do want to play. Like I get it. Listen, I understand.
I'm sure AJ DeBanza is real happy about going to Washington D.C. this year.
And so listen, here's my counterpoint to that though, because like I'm with you, and like I don't know if I'd be thrilled to play for the Wizards right this second either. But if I'm living in DC, the city, like if we're talking about NBA cities and where I actually want to live, DC's high. Like DC is a top tier city in America for me. Like the food is great. There's always a lot going on. Oh, you're just giving me a look. I love DC. Like the weather's a little in the summertime. Like it's kind of humid, but like I mess with DC. I have a great time every time. The Metro's great.
So incredibly expensive there, though.
Well, but that's
you're making NBA money. What do you care about expensive? Not only NBA money, number one pick NBA money.
Send me to the Heat. I don't want any income tax.
You said we were worried about living somewhere expensive, and you want to go live in Miami?
No income tax. I'll take it.
I hear you. I'm going to get taxed to death on everything else.
All right, fine. Oklahoma, no income tax in Texas, I think.
Oh yeah, I'm sure Oklahoma City would love to see Andrew walking down those streets.
OKC, listen, OKC Riverwalk going crazy. Everybody knows about San Antonio's, but I hear OKC's got a semi all right one as well. I don't know. I can't say I've ever been to Oklahoma. Been to Texas a few times, but no Oklahoma.
I have also never been to Oklahoma. I won't speak ill on Oklahoma City, having not been there.
I just realized I said Oklahoma in Texas, and that's it's been a long week.
Yeah, I hear that. I mean, Washington at least isn't. I mean, they're going to be, and we're not going to do a bunch of draft talk now, but like it is an intriguing roster next year. All of a sudden, with a number one pick, some of their younger guys. You know, maybe Anthony Davis gives you 50 games. We'll see. Like Trae Young, is he in redemption mode? I don't know. We'll see. But I'm a lot more like they're going to be sneaky competitive next year. Maybe if you know, with a one pick, like they're going to be a more interesting watch than a typical team is getting with the one pick, where you think they're going to stink. Like all of a sudden, their moves to push in a little more. Like I'm not saying it was super smart, but I see the vision a little bit.
I mean, you know, it's. I think a lot of basketball teams take that sort of like hockey mentality, where it's like get in and anything can happen. And basketball is obviously a lot less random in that regard. But you know, if the goal of the season, I mean, even with these like expanded playoffs, is to get into the playoffs, like the Wizards have sort of set themselves up really, really well. I mean, that's on paper, you know, if you add DeBanza in there, that's a pretty good starting five. That's a starting five that could probably win you at least 40 games, maybe 42, 45, somewhere in that range. Like that's enough to get in, you know, sneak into the play-in, and like you could beat a worse team, at least on paper. And from there, it's, you know, we've seen bad teams make runs in the NBA playoffs, and I'm not calling them a bad team. We don't know what they look like yet, but I mean, you know, Anthony Davis is still Anthony Davis. Trae Young is still Trae Young, and you know, they have what, Jordan Poole at the 2?
He's gone now. No, he's down to New Orleans.
Is he in New Orleans? All right. Well, it's still like it's an interesting team.
They're paying Anthony Davis $54 million a year at 33 years old.
I don't think they had a choice. They inherited the contract.
That's unreal.
I think you should be more mad at the Lakers for giving the extension, right?
Anthony Davis won a title there. I can't be upset. I mean, you got questions about it.
That bubble ring, does it really count?
I mean, it depends whether I want to push LeBron propaganda or not.
If I want to push LeBron propaganda, it's absolutely.
I always want to push LeBron propaganda. Yeah, you know, listen, 3 rings on or rings with 3 different squads. Like, what are we talking about? They were the best team before the bubble, but no, I mean, just like let's circle back to Western real quick before we get out of here and start talking about some of these eliminated teams. I mean, like, just give me your numbers, I guess. What do you guys think this is going the rest of the way?
Like how many games?
Yeah, like give me some predictions.
I think it goes 7. If De'Aaron Fox comes back and they're able to get Harper back, I think it goes 7. And I think I want the Spurs to win, and I think if they're healthy and they eliminate those turnovers that are killing them, I think they can. but OKC also needs to figure out what's wrong with Chet Holmgren against Wembanyama.
Holmgren looked great last night. Say
No,
what you will.
he
Holmgren looked real good last night.
I'm sorry. He went for. Give me 1 second. I had it right here. He went for 8 and 8.
Hey, he had a few dunks on.
That's not good enough in the playoffs
He's like a third option.
He's averaging 17 and he's averaging 17 and 9 in a regular season, and he gives you 8 and 8.
As a third option.
He's got to be better even as a third option. Like he can't get. And I'd argue that he's closer to a 2 on that team. He splits with Jalen, but like Chet's got to embrace.
Outside of matching up against Wemby, he plays like very solid defense.
Chet's great, but I think Chet needs to embrace the hatred. Like Victor Wembanyama legitimately is offended. They put Chet Holmgren in the same category.
Yeah, absolutely.
Chet doesn't care. Chet's like, I didn't ask for this, which to be fair, he didn't ask for this comparison, but that's the comparison he's getting. And Wemby takes it really personally. And so I think Chet needs to like, listen, I know you want to stay out of it and it's an unfair comparison, but like my guy, just lean into the dark side. Like just embrace it a little bit, put some spice in it.
Not that I'm like the big, no, please. Like, not that I'm the biggest Chet like defender. I don't like him. I don't like the Thunder. I hate the way Shy plays basketball. It reminds me a lot of those like late Harden years, and like we could spend 6 hours talking about the narrative surrounding Oklahoma City. Chet, I mean, I think a lot of people forget Chet was hurt at Gonzaga, had back problems, came to the league hurt. Like it's taken him, it feels like a while to put on that like Giannis muscle, like league muscle. Once you get to the league. And I'm obviously not saying he's huge. Like he's still very lanky. I think he's never been this like offensive force either. I think scoring the basketball might be the easiest it's ever been in the NBA, but you still got to get to the rim, and he doesn't do a good job of that. I think we will not see the best version of Chet probably till he reaches his like mid-20s. He starts putting on the weight a little bit more, and that team has more of an identity with him at like the 5 instead of the 4.
I don't know, but I will say the highlight of my week getting ready for this was finding out just how deeply Wembanyama hated Chet Holmgren. I had no idea. And I just found it out.
And Chet didn't even like, that's what's crazy. It's just real unbridled. Like some people need that like motivation and like, look, you need a muse, I guess. But like Chet has never fired a shot at Wemby. I don't think he's ever trolled him one time. Like this is strictly Wemby going, I can't, like you have the audacity to say this guy's in the same category as me. I'm going to obliterate him every time. You
know where it stems from? And I think a lot of it, I think it says a lot about who Wembanyama is as like a basketball player and a competitor. I think it really comes from that it's like that U18 Olympics where the USA beats France and Chet is his matchup. Chet's playing the 5 there. Wemby is obviously playing nowhere else but the 5. And USA won, I think, pretty convincingly. I don't know. I don't know the box score of that game, but USA won. I think Wemby, there's videos out there of him just like throwing off the silver medal because he wants gold. And obviously he's not happy this past Olympics when they lose as well. And I think it really stems from that because Chet goes back to America. He goes to Gonzaga. Doesn't even really play. Wemby's out grinding in France, and they meet in the NBA in the same draft class. They're both tall, lanky bigs, sort of stretch the floor. They can both shoot. They both play. I mean, Wemby obviously plays a lot better defense, but they both play pretty good defense. Like the comparisons are there. Like obviously,
it's a natural comparison.
It's a natural comparison. It's not fair. It's not fair to shit. It really is not.
Of course it's not, because it's like it's literally the personification. And it's crazy you're saying this because like I almost don't want to use this comparison, but it's the meme, right? Where it's like a Chrysler 300 is a Phantom until a Phantom pulls up. But like, which is crazy disrespectful. It feels like to Chet Holmgren. Like Chet Holmgren is a really good basketball player, an NBA champion. A number 2 option on one of the deepest teams in history. But you're right. Like, it's just, he's bare. Wemby just like, right. He needs somebody like, and yeah, whether it's, he needs some form of motivation, and that apparently is destroying Chet Holmgren. But at the same time, like, I like the juice. I love the energy in this series. This feels like some old school basketball, and I like that Wemby has that mentality that he wants to be the best. That's why I think he's going to be so great. It's like it's not just like he has the natural ability. That dude really just wants to be the best too. He cares about basketball more than anything. That's half the battle with some of these elite prospects. And then when you're just blessed with the natural abilities that Wemby has, like it's the dream scenario for anybody.
It's crazy that he is 16 inches taller than no. Yeah, 16 inches taller than me as a person.
The craziest thing that like it reminds me when you see him stand next to some of these other guys, because like there's that video of when Embiid guarded him for the first time, and Embiid just kind of looks up and it's like, oh my God.
Yeah, like how often does Joel Embiid have to look up at someone?
Right. The only picture I can see, and this is one of my favorite pictures on the internet, is when Shaq went over to China to hang out with Yao Ming post-retirement. And there's a picture of them like just standing next to each other. And Yao's got like 4 inches on Shaq, dude. He's so much taller than this guy. And you real like it's one of those where you're just like, oh my God. Like
yeah, and the craziest stat about just his build is that he has an 8-foot wingspan. Yeah, I mean, that's like a pterodactyl. I don't know exactly what a pterodactyl is.
You wonder why he blocks so many shots, dude.
He had a block last game.
He raises his hand in the air, and you take off like the shoulder part. It feels like his hand is 15 feet high.
It's like getting your brother on your pickup team who's 8 years older than you and your friends and just throwing it to him in the low post. That's all it is. But he had a block where it looked like he was halfway up the paint and just reached back and blocked Caruso last night. And it was one of the most insane things I've ever seen in sport.
We're watching them do stuff on a basketball court. Again, it feels like we can only talk to like our grandfathers about when they saw Will Chamberlain and like Bill Russell. Like
he dunks without jumping.
Jumping. He pulls up from the logo. The
three is audacious. Like I said, that's alarming. That's like,
I haven't seen,
God.
I have a lot of opinions about like who like Draymond Green and like Rudy Gobert are as like basketball players whose like primary role their entire career is being like this lockdown defender. Their teams will entirely space up outside the arc if Wemby is sitting with like 1 foot down there in the paint. Like I've never seen anything like it. I don't think we'll ever see anything like it again. It's just he changes the way you need to prepare to win a basketball game.
Yeah, he just like the gravity around Wemby is unlike a lot of other players. Like, right, there aren't many. I mean, a unanimous defensive player of the year like you do. You have to totally like guys are scared to attack him in the paint. Like it completely changes. I mean, how many times have you seen a 2-on-1 fast break where like one player just entirely destroys it, where you see them constantly like I know it's the new NBA. But you see guys just kicking out to threes that they have no business. It's just like attacking. And I think you'll see, like, listen, people will get less scared of Wemby over time. And, you have to, there will be ways to attack him. But I don't know, man. When you care about getting better the way he does too, like we said, we're just scratching the surface. Like this kid is 21 years old. Like we're nowhere near the peak of his powers yet. That's what's so insane to me.
Wild. Yeah. And you talk about someone like throwing that ball back out to like the corner for the 3 and like the 2-on-1. He takes 2 steps and he has again an 8-foot wingspan. Like that's a contested shot.
But to Kevin, to your point, barring any injuries, and we can circle back to this in 15 years, he will be a top 5 player of NBA history, if not a top 3.
Yeah, okay. The path is there. I mean, the way I do my tier, and we're not going to do the tier ranking, but the way it is for me right now is like I've got MJ and LeBron in any order to me are 1 and 2, 1 and 1A, whatever you want to call it. I have Kareem solidly in my 3. Like I don't think Kareem is in that tier that MJ and LeBron are, but I've got Kareem pretty firmly at 3 above everybody else. And that's where it starts to be like you can have the discussion of where it's like, all right, do you have Magic Johnson? Do you have Larry Bird? Do you have even today, like, is it Tim Duncan? Is it Steph Curry? Is it Kobe? Like that's where you start to wait, who would you say?
Kevin Durant. I think Kevin Durant.
Shaq.
I don't think Shaq has the dominance, but Shaq's back half of Shaq's career is a little messy. KD's problem is if KD had a ring post Golden State, I think if he wins that year in Brooklyn, which, like, to be fair, he was the best player in the NBA that year in Brooklyn. Like, we're a half shoe away and a Kyrie Irving injury away from him winning that ring in Brooklyn and that big three being looked at entirely different. I still think Steph is better than KD in this generation, though. And that's why that's my problem.
Or if he wins at OKC in that year, they lost to the Heat.
Yeah,
I don't think I heard anyone mention Tim Duncan either. I mean,
Duncan should definitely. I think Duncan's definitely at the top. My hot take, and this is my take that I feel like I get crucified for sometimes, is I think Tim Duncan's better than Kobe.
I think Tim Duncan's better than Kobe. I think a lot of that.
I think I think you get hate because the comparison is so two completely different players. Like obviously one's a shooting guard, one's a power forward, but even just the way they approached the game was completely different. So.
And much more. I'm going to say
Kobe, but I love Kobe.
I love Kobe too. I really do.
It's the yin and the yang of approaches, and they both clearly were extremely successful. So it's it's an even comparison. They both won a ton of titles. Like, Kobe's resume gets boosted, of course, because he wins the titles post Shaq. And he's got a bunch of back-to-backs. Duncan just kept winning basically, for generate, because even with that 14 ring, like, that 14 ring is so impressive. I mean, they're in the same tier to me. Like, we're not. I don't think there's a wrong answer in that discussion. I think they're a little below. I think everybody that we just mentioned is probably below the other three. I said we're not going to do a tier talk, and we're out here doing an entire tier talk. The hardest ones to rank are the guys that Mason mentioned. It's Will and Bill Russell. Like, Will and Bill Russell, because it's such a different era. Like, I don't want to not rank them in the top 10 because it feels disrespectful. But also, I'm like, are they the 10 best players in basketball? Like, are we sure about that? Like, is Wilton Bill better than Hakeem Olajuwon? I don't know. Are they better than Shaq? I don't know. Like,
whenever you want to, but you don't want to like. I want that. I'd love to be on here for that one.
I just don't want to like totally like, because people do that with eras, and I don't want to sound like I'm an era hater too. I don't want to be the guy who's like, they were playing against plumbers, but
they kind of were
though. Like, but put them in today's NBA where it's like, okay, give them the travel that they have, give them the training that they have, give them the gyms that they have. Like, guys are smoking cigarettes in the locker room back in the 60s. Like, there's just
my hot take on the best players is, and this might get me crucified, is Dirk Nowitzki is a top 15 player in NBA history.
I got to do a full list, but I don't hate it. I'm not going to crucify you for that take. Dirk is incredible. Right. Like, Dirk was great for 20 years. He won a title. His teams are constantly in the mix.
Won a title against arguably the best team ever in basketball history. Well, I'm not going to say they are, but you could argue it.
Well, he had the best run ever in that run too. Like, you look at the teams that Dirk knocked out that run. He knocked out the Spurs, who we just mentioned. He knocked out Kobe's Lakers. He knocked out the OKC Thunder with Russ, KD, and Harden. And then he knocked out LeBron, Bosh, and Wade in their first year. That is truly, like, that is the most impressive run I've seen in my lifetime, and that matters. Like, running through that, and because the narrative around Dirk was that he was a playoff choker going into that year. The main memory of Dirk was them being up as the big number 1 seed against the Miami Heat, and then Dwayne Wade in his 3rd season taking their lunch money for 4 straight games like that, and then the next year going out and losing to the We Believe Warriors in the 8-1 upset. Like, Dirk's legacy, you want to talk about a narrative shift from one run, that was as good as it gets for changing Dirk's legacy. And I think he absolutely, like, right, he's in that 10 to 20 range somewhere. Like, I don't know where exactly, but I think he's definitely in that range.
I think I might have him a little later, but again, similar to what you said, Kevin, I don't like the era hate, and I think because I don't like the era hate, I give a lot of deference to those like guys in like the the 60s and like early 70s. Which, is neither here nor there. Dirk was so special. He really was. You talk about the game of basketball, and I mean, we've seen a real shift in the NBA lately of, and I think LeBron kind of starts it with his move to Miami of, like, stars aren't like loved by their cities if they're not winning. Like, teams are very willing to dish that supermax guy if they think it can get them over the hump. And I mean, maybe obviously towards the tail end of his career, I don't think there was any indication that getting rid of Dirk Nowitzki would make the Mavericks better. And I think that's very telling.
No, Dirk was loyal. Dirk and Kobe both in that sense, with them being on the same team
Kobe kind
forever.
of wanted to leave in
Kobe
09,
tried to
but
be out. Kobe tried to very much get traded to the Clippers. Like Dirk never tried to leave, and that absolutely matters. But like, yeah, they're rare in the sense. Tim Duncan too are rare in the sense that yeah, these 20-year superstars on one team. Like, it's not that it doesn't happen anymore. Because I mean, look, we're looking at Steph Curry right now, who's going to play his
Udonis
entire career most
Haslem,
likely out on the Warriors. Shout out to the OG. No, but either way, like I think Dirk too, if we're talking like a narrative perspective and a like impact on the game, Dirk changed the way people view European players too, big time. And obviously we're in an era where Euro ball is certainly, dominated the narrative. A lot of the best players in the world are European,
Wemby,
but
Luka,
like
Jokic.
yeah, Wemby, Luka, Jokic, like look at the MVP runs, right? Like a bunch of the last MVPs aren't from America anymore. That was unthinkable. And like Dirk was one of those guys. Like, look, the narrative around the Europeans still when they came in the league is that they were all soft. There ain't nobody calling Dirk soft.
Nah, no more.
Dirk would call you. They can call Dirk soft, and they cook you with that fadeaway jumper. Like I know he's a little unorthodox, but that guy, listen, he was a world ruiner. But no, I'll always praise Dirk. I have nothing but love for Dirk's game. Let's talk about the teams that got eliminated here a little bit, the second round teams, because we want to do some post-mortem. So we got 4 squads, of course, the Lakers, the Pistons, the Sixers, and I said the Pistons already. Lakers, Pistons, Sixers, and
Timberwolves.
Who am I? Timberwolves. Thank you. Anthony Edwards dapping up the Spurs with the game being over there. So we'll pull out the old despair meter, kind of rank, who we feel the worst for here. I swear I'm not going to be a homer and pick the Sixers, but like, I don't know. I mean, I feel like I go back and forth with them and the Pistons. The Lakers, I feel like you knew what it was against this OKC squad. The Timberwolves, too, given all their injuries. I mean, shout out to Ant for coming back from that and being able to hoop the way he did. But, losing Dante DiVincenzo as well was huge for them. I don't know. I mean, who do you think is the ranks with the most despair here? Because I think you got to look at the offseason questions as well. The Lakers, of course, the big one is going to be LeBron James, but I think I'm leaning Pistons right now, only because they were the 1 seed to not get to the conference finals, to have had a chance to beat a team in Cleveland who, look, they were just as good as them on paper. That's where I'm slightly leaning right now.
I think I agree with you. Personally for me, and if it's going to sound a little crazy, I think the Timberwolves have the most questions this coming off season. I think they have a very big Julius Randle problem that they have to address. Especially with like Dante, like who even knows if he's playing next season. Achilles or Achilles. Not everyone is Jason Tatum coming back in 9 months. I used to, especially, obviously big Knicks fan. I still love Julius Randle. But Julius Randle has a problem where he forgets a lot of times that he's like the biggest, strongest dude on the floor, even with bigger guys out there. And there's a lot of times where it looks like he doesn't, not that he doesn't want to play winning basketball. It's like it almost feels like he doesn't know how. And that may be a lot of times, him spent in Detroit, him those years in New York, but they have a big problem. And I mean, obviously the Timberwolves have a ton of like very young wing players, like who can like fill the gap with Julius Randle. But I can't imagine that with all the money they're paying him to, that like his output is something they're happy with. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a weird timeline issue because Ant's in his prime and you want to maximize it. And a lot of the young guys are younger still, right? Like McDaniels is still young. Naz Reid is still pretty young. It feels like Gobert is going to have that question mark too now, where with Rudy getting older, with, Wemby pretty thoroughly outplaying him. You wonder if there's enough firepower with the second guys. Like I give McDaniels a ton of credit for stepping up the way he did to eliminate Denver, and I think he showed out. But yeah, I do think they have to make some kind of foundational decisions here this offseason because they've had a ton of success. It's been one of the best runs in Minnesota Timberwolves franchise history these last few years, like multiple conference finals appearances, like since drafting Ant, they've been pretty successful. But right, like, the challenge here is to get to the finals with this team. You don't want to waste a prime the way Anthony Edwards has been. In terms of like what team is at the crossroads the most, I mean, I think them and the Lakers have that on lock for sure. With the Lakers LeBron decision looming.
And yeah, absolutely.
I agree only to this. I feel pretty medium about them because I love Anthony Edwards. I think he's my favorite player in the NBA outside of the Sixers. I love him on the court, and he seems like a great person off the court. But I mean, he's only 24. He's only going to get better. They've been to 2 Western Conference Finals in like the last 3 or 4 years, I believe. But their last 5 years are starting to look very Sixers reminiscent, where it's 7th, 8th, 3rd, 6th, and they're just not getting. But they still have been getting to the Western Conference Final, and they just came up against a team they weren't going to beat. They weren't going to beat the Spurs, so I don't feel too bad. My despair is not high for the Timberwolves. I think as long as they can get younger at the center and power forward this offseason, I think they'll be all right.
It's a weird mix though, because like I don't feel a ton of despair because they were better. Because I do think the Spurs, I agree in the sense, were better than them. But I also kind of feel despair in a way, and then I'm like, well, has another team jumped us? Like we're supposed to be here too, and like we want to get over the hump as well. So like, it's not a loud despair, but I think there again are some big questions about like how are we going to take this next step? How are we going to maximize? Kind of like the Lakers, I think, are there with Luka Doncic, where it's like, all right, what do we do with this roster now? How do we build around it? Of course, we're all going to be on LeBron watch. It certainly feels like he's either going back to the Lakers or he's going to Cleveland. I do think, he's doing the whole, like, I'm flirting with retirement thing. He's not retiring like this. I don't think there's any way that happens, like, especially with him being as good as he was in his, at 41, winning a playoff series still, like, we're still in legacy mode, but, it is kind of it's at a weird, awkward point with his relationship with the Lakers too, right? Like, because I think the Lakers, I don't want to say they're trying to move on, but, like, you are clearly running the team around what you want to do with Luka Doncic at this point, so I don't know. I want to see how awkward it's going to get. Is it awkward enough to get him to go back to Cleveland, where clearly, they're doing pretty good as well here in the conference finals with that core? Like, would he sign a minimum deal to go do that? I don't know.
Well, I mean, you also maybe have to place a little weight into that story that dropped. Was it last week? It might have been the week before, of when LeBron passes Kareem for the most points ever, that like they didn't give him the game ball or something like that. Like the LA seems to be in a sort of limbo, obviously, because LeBron's decision. I agree with you, Kevin. I don't think he's retiring. I think, I love LeBron. LeBron's gonna want he's gonna want a retirement tour. Like he just is. Like, it's not gonna be like, they get bounced in, like, let's say the 2nd or 3rd round next year, and like he's gonna be like, oh well, that's it. I think it's gonna be pre-planned no matter what. And say what you will about LeBron, still a great basketball player. Is he worth the, $40 million he's getting right
now?
Like
the 50s now.
50s, yeah. I mean,
it's not for the Lakers in this group. That's the other problem too. Is it's like, listen, is LeBron worth 50 still? I mean, maybe on certain rosters, but like this Lakers, they can't afford to pay him 50 and then afford to get the upgrades to the roster. Like that's the problem. It's like, do you want to contend with this group?
Center. They need a starting center.
Yeah, they need LeBron to take less money, ideally. And the problem is like, again, as much as I love LeBron, he hasn't really done that in his career. There haven't been too many situations where he's indicated where it's like, yeah, no, I'll take the minimum to come back 1 year and then just, fill out the rest of the roster and compete for it one last time, which to me is surprising because it's like, look, LeBron gets the 5th ring.
That's especially how old he is,
At
and
42,
like it depends on how involved he is with the offense and how they're playing.
Well, he's going to be involved. He's going to be a meaningful contributor no matter what. So
I think he really showed this year that he can play off ball for the first time ever, which is huge. It's going to be a question of. I think they kind of have a Reeves question to address too, which is not ideal. It doesn't have to be immediately this offseason, but I think they have to do something by the end of next year. And you don't love his his game 3 performance where he had 6 points, like 1 of 12, just brutal from the floor from Austin Reeves, and he looked better in game 4. But I mean, writing on the wall in game 4 against the powerhouse like Oklahoma City. And I don't know if I'd necessarily buy the LeBron is going to go back to Cleveland again. I think he really might weigh his options and take, what's the vet min now, like $5 million. He might actually try to go to he won't go to Boston, but he might try to go to like one of those competing teams where that's not Cleveland. I don't know if he really wants to restart that chapter again.
I mean, it is, but they're good, and it is the retirement tour. Like, I don't even think it's about restarting the chapter. I mean, I think it's just about finishing with the franchise that is the most relevant and important in his career. It just feels like if he's going to leave, it's like you're only going to go back to some place that you're super familiar with. Like, I don't think LeBron is going to spend his last year like freelancing on some random team. I don't know. I mean, it feels like it's one or the other. You know, I know the Warriors are certainly going to pursue. They've been flirting there for a long time as well.
He loves Steph Curry.
He does like Steph now, which is a crazy turn of events when you think about how much like how good that rivalry was for a long time. But yeah, they definitely love each other now. I don't know. I mean, it'll be one or the other, I think, and I think we'll get an idea here sooner than later. I don't know.
I know you'd love him to come to the Sixers, Kev.
I wanted him to come to the Sixers in the first go round before they got him on the Lakers, and he did flirt with us a little bit. They were looking at the school. They were looking at the schools in private out here on the main line. Like, he was good. He was tight with Ben at the time. Joel was still in his prime. Like, it was a logical fit. Like, it's just a bummer, you know. The Lakers are the Lakers. It still feels weird to say that he spent like the largest number of his career with the Lakers, but that's an entirely different discussion. I mean, look, the other two teams, of course, the Sixers and the Pistons, like the Sixers just ran out of gas. I mean, it was the 6-man rotation. And like, look, it all goes down to like, I got to give the Sixers credit. I mean, you beat Boston in 7, and then you totally torched the fan base in the course of a week. Like, that's remarkably fast. It's remarkably impressive and on brand. But like, it's the Sixers lose around the margins. That's what this franchise does all the time. They lost around the margins this past deadline when you traded Jared McCain, which went as well as everybody did. Like, it's always been that. It's letting Isaiah Joe walk to sign Dwayne Dedmon for a third of a season. It's letting Julian Champagne, who's playing great minutes over in San Antonio on a meaningful team, get waived so that Mac McClung can be in the dunk contest. Like, it's all these little like, obviously the big comp, it will always go back to Ben Simmons and Markelle Fultz not panning out. Like, that's the biggest issue here. But it's like, this team's in a weird spot. They remain in a weird spot because they haven't decided, like, if you're trying to go the stealth rebuilding route, okay, then this season wasn't the worst thing in the world. And I do obviously think this team should build long-term around VJ Edgecombe and Tyrese Maxey. Like, that's just the way it should be. Embiid's not dependable enough. He gave you what you needed in Game 7 against Boston, but like, Embiid is house money at this point. But yeah, with him tied up so much in so much money with him and Paul George, like, they are at this weird, like, 2 timeline point right now. You know, with Morey gone, I'm excited to see who they bring in, but yeah, I mean, they're, you know, I think there's a world where you could move on from Embiid or Paul George if you wanted to this offseason. You may have to attach something to it. I just think the Sixers need to pick a direction, but it's hard to be enthused about any direction when you've got an owner actively ducking the tax. Like, Embiid called them out. Like, that's what made it even worse, is like, you got pressure from inside the locker room and then you still did it anyway. And, you know, it's just, how can you have faith in this moving forward?
Yeah, it's hard to have faith when the last decade they've done the same thing, make the playoffs in a high position and just not make the Eastern Conference final at all. But, I mean, they have arguably the 2 best young players in the league in the backcourt. I think you have to build around them. Embiid's older now; he's barely healthy, if he's ever healthy. Paul George, it was fun for a little while, but he's at the end of his career. What they really need to do is go get a really good big man, and then hope they can make some good drafts to fill in the small forward and power forward role or the center role. I think they need to just start young. They're getting old now and just hasn't worked. But it's hard when your owner doesn't spend money. So I think they're gonna have to do it in the draft.
Yeah, that's where the disparity. I mean, and look, they've got their picks. Like, that is the good thing, and they've had some success drafting here. I don't know, but it's a weird place, and it doesn't feel like I am surprised Nick Nurse survived. I got to be honest. When Morey got fired, I didn't think Nick Nurse is going to keep his job too. That's probably the biggest surprise of the season so far. But yeah, I mean, they look against the Knicks. We praised the Knicks' depth. The Sixers didn't have any. Like if the starters weren't going, if one of the starters weren't going, the only guys you could reliably play off the bench in any sort of capacity were Quentin Grimes, who had a pretty rough series, Andre Drummond in limited minutes. Like there wasn't much else there. You didn't really have options. Like you kind of got what you got out of Oubre. You got what you got out of the starters. Like they are who they are.
I was at game 3. Obviously, we've all talked at length about that. And fourth quarter, it's a close game, the whole game. Trading back and forth. Embiid was hitting, Embiid looked pretty, obviously hobbled, but like he was hitting shots, like he was able to get his at least a little bit. And then the fourth quarter starts, Knicks start to pull away a little bit, and it's like maybe 3 or 4 minutes left in the fourth. It's not completely out of reach. I think it was like an 11-point game, and they subbed the bench in, who hadn't played at all. Basically, it's like you kind of know you're punting like game 3 of going to you're punting game 3 to go down 3-0. It's like you kind of writing was on the wall at that point. I think the Sixers have had a Joel Embiid problem for the last 6 years. It feels like 5 years. It feels like And I hate to hold injuries against players. I really do. A lot of it is circumstantial, like, that LeBron injury a couple years ago where was it Dylan Brooks or Mark? I forget who fell into his ankle, and that's like the most significant time he's missed in his career. Like freak accidents like that happen. But you look at sort of, and again, I don't like to really hate on the Sixers all that much, but the sort of incompetence from the Sixers when it comes to handling like Joel Embiid early on in his career, to him constantly being hurt. I mean, there was a lot of narratives around him, those late 2010s where he was, foul baiting as a 7-foot, 260-pound man. And I don't dislike Embiid in any capacity. I'm not a huge fan of that challenge he had on the pull down of Mitchell Robinson. Was it not last year, 2 years ago? That's not a basketball play, but we don't have to go into that. But if the best players, like the best I'm trying to think of the phrase, the
best ability is availability.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you. He's not the best available. He's never available.
Well, now especially because now it's added up, and I mean that's the biggest thing is like the defense isn't as good. Like more of anything, that was his bread and butter, and I mean that's the most alarming part of his game. Offensively, he'd still be there. I mean, even in Game 4 when they got ran out of the gym, Embiid had 28 points. He was perfect from the field.
He can shoot the hell out of a basketball. He really can. He is one of the best touches around the rim I've seen from a big man. He can shoot the mid range. He can kind of pull up from 3 when you need him to. We want to talk about Victor Wembanyama. How great Victor Wembanyama is. That we used to have a Victor Wembanyama stopper. It was Joel Embiid in his prime, and he's just not that anymore.
I think what makes my despair a little worse is that it was against the Knicks. It's against a team you're supposed to be wanting to be better than, that you're trying to compete with in the division, just trying to be better than. And they get outscored by 84 points in those 4 games and out-rebounded by 42. Like, you got dominated. The 2 teams weren't even close, and that's supposed to be your closest competition.
Well, it just felt like he was there.
I do disagree with that take. I don't think anyone was. The Sixers on paper look really good. I don't think anyone was comparing them to the Knicks. Knicks were coming off of an Eastern Conference Finals run. I think the Knicks were poised kind of to win the East this year. And I don't think anyone really sort of expected that out of the Sixers.
The Knicks season was weird though, because they were favored to win the East, but then it was the back half of the season. I mean, especially post All-Star break. Like the Knicks didn't beat anybody good post All-Star break. And again, with the first few games against the Hawks, that's where it's like, maybe this team just doesn't have that switch. It's the fact that they flipped the switch now, and it's like, oh, okay, now you look like the Eastern Conference team that you were supposed to be all year. I think that's where it's weird. The Sixers just, they just didn't have that gear. I mean, they didn't have the depth. And it's the most frustrating thing to me is that it's not just like the Embiid injuries are what they are, and like there's some blame to be put there. It's not that I don't think there's any. It's also just the organization has just continually failed at every single turn. Like there's always something with this team that they're doing wrong, and like you can point to something every season where they're just always on the wrong end of it. Like they never good organizations make those splashy moves and they don't really have it. Part of it, I think, is Morey's team building. I think he only knows how to build big threes because that's the era he grew up in. And it is a different era now. It's a depth era. We've seen that more than anything in these past few years. The teams that are making title runs are teams full of depth. The last team here is the Pistons. And I mean, again, to me, it's the one. And the fact that the path was open, like you could have beat Cleveland, you matched up well against the Knicks. I still would add the Knicks as the favorite in that series, but like, I don't know. You can't, like, JB Bickerstaff is trying to sell this. Oh, it isn't a disappointment. We went further than we did last year, but like, I don't know. You had a conference finals shot right there. And I think given the way that your secondary cast performed too, like these guys were all great in the regular season, but like, yeah, Durant's drop was a little alarming. Like, I'm not fully out on him yet. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to jump off the cliff, but it's like, that is stuff where you go, hey, we look like we were ready to take that step. You start to maybe doubt a little bit.
Absolutely. I think you touched on it. The biggest question surrounding the Pistons right now is, do you give Duran that supermax and sort of tie up your roster between Cade and him as your two premier players? And I think they have some real concerns. Cade Cunningham is Cade Cunningham. That is a great basketball player. 6'8" point guard, can run the floor, shoots, plays good defense, especially for his size on like smaller guys. And not to say that Duran didn't have the easiest matchup in the world in Cleveland with Mobley and Jared Allen on him, and every time he touched the ball, that's a tough matchup for any center out there. But like you said, the offensive drop off is just, it's so alarming that you hesitate to put pen to paper on that contract. And that is, I think, out of every team that we mentioned, like I know I said I have the biggest alarm bells for Minnesota, but I think the league, across the league, is pretty very evidently Detroit. Where do you go from here? And I don't think they have an answer.
No, but I don't think you should panic. That's the biggest thing. You shouldn't panic. You should, don't make rash decisions off one run.
I think if you look at just this season under a microscope, you'd have despair and it'd be a disappointment. But the Pistons have been awful for so long, barring these last 2 years. I mean, they were the laughing stock of the league for a couple of years there, where they just continuously finished last in the East. I love Cade Cunningham. I think he's great. I think he's who they're going to build around. They got some young players. I really don't have any despair. I think the only despair comes if you focus too much just on this season.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, listen, that team a few years ago was maybe the worst basketball team I've ever seen. Like an NBA record-long losing streak. Cade was the only bright spot in just basically a non-NBA roster. So yeah, there is some good perspective there in that sense too. Like, right, the Pistons are relevant again. They've won more recently than they have since the end of the 2000s when they were going to the ECF every year. It'll just be interested to see whether that core takes the next step, but not panicking is probably the name of the game there.
Here's a good stat for you on the Pistons. Before we move on, the Pistons had not won a playoff series since 2008 before they came back to beat the Magic. Like that's it's almost 20 years. Like, you can't be unhappy about how this season turned out. I think to admit, I think if you're JB Bickerstaff and you're on that podium and you say, you maybe throw that stat out there, like, this is the first series, like, we came back down from 3-1. We win our first playoff series since 2008. We're the 1 seed, they're the 1 seed, but we were talking earlier about the Spurs and their lack of experience. None of those guys, I mean, I guess you could maybe argue Tobias Harris has some playoff experience, but a lot of those guys have never been in the playoffs.
Let me tell you, my brother in Christ, we do not want to talk about Tobias Harris.
No, we don't want to talk about
it. That is
like having been there, he was up,
he's been there.
A lot of times they won those first rounds.
Much. He's been there. I mean, that was a little vintage in the last 2 games of that Cleveland series for sure.
I'm not calling Tobias Harris like a playoff winner, but he's won some series out there. Like, he's a vet now. Also very strange.
He's definitely a vet. He's a vet. He's played meaningful basketball. We know what it is when he needs to be a 2 option in a meaningful game like that. I've seen that movie before.
I've also seen that movie before. It's not great. Not box office material.
To add to that stat, Mason, in just the 23-24 season, they finished, you ready for this? 14-68, the Pistons, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And then they went to 6th place in the East to 1st place. I can't see how you'd have
Got
any
bounced
despair.
by the Knicks.
I just don't. They were at the top, and then there was a big gap. There was no despair for them when I was.
No,
14 and
absolutely. And
68
the turnaround, the turnaround, especially from last year, like obviously the Knicks bounced them round one. It's not pretty. But to sit here and call this season a disappointment for the Pistons, I think is just a tad disingenuous. I think they did some real good things. I think they've really built a foundation where they can only continue to improve. Again, it's just they don't have to hit the panic button, but you'd be a fool to not say that there are conversations going on surrounding like who they are trying to put around Cade Cunningham, and it might not be alarm bell time, but they have questions to answer.
No, you got to see how they go in the next round. You don't want to panic yet. You have some questions, some very fair questions, but like I don't think you should try to answer them all in one off season. I think you should see how they develop. They're all very young. We go out in the first round next year, we're at this same point in the second round next year, then maybe we're having a different conversation.
Absolutely.
The only bummer is that you were 1 seed. Like, it's simple as that.
But you saw that the young guys got fighting. I mean, they played, 5 winner-go-home games in 2 series.
And coming back against Orlando, like you said, being down 3-1-2 and being on the mat, having that experience to get up off it, come back from a series like that. Like there's a lot of stripes earned in that fight. You get to the second round, you lose a tough game 7. It's not the end of the. I mean, well, it looked ugly in game 7. I think what adds a little sour taste there too is that Cleveland thoroughly dominated them too, and especially in a game where James Harden struggled again in a game 7. It's like they still just got ran out of the gym. But I'm not going to really, like you said, I'm not going to totally burn the boats over this loss at all. Thank you everyone for listening to this episode of the Dry Dish NBA podcast. We are going to, of course, wrap up on some soccer talk. Of course, we got to sneak that in. But before listen, guys in the debut, Andrew Fehr, Mason Switsky, we're never doing this before. Not too bad, fellas. An hour and 20 podcast debut. Not too shabby. We're getting up in here. I don't know what the longest episode is. Justin and I get yapping at some points, but not too bad. Or I guess if there was any worry about these boys being microphone shy, we haven't had any struggles with that. So not too bad at all, fellas. We do unfortunately have to talk about the horrific scenes that are going on overseas right now in England. I almost don't want to. Our worst case scenario.
We really can.
Both of these boys are Man U fans. I'm sitting here suffering as a Chelsea fan, and we have to watch the Gooners. God, that's so disgusting. I can't believe Arsenal won the title and didn't bottle. Like, what are we doing? What is happening? Wait, are the Cowboys going to win the Super Bowl next year? Like, what is happening?
Hey, say what you will. Dak Prescott looks like he's played the best football of his career.
I mean, listen, if that's the way things are going now, what's next? We got a Maple Leafs Cup too? Like, are we just ending every ridiculous drought out there? Yeah, it's crazy.
It couldn't have been worse.
They're getting Gavin McKenna.
Yeah,
not to switch from soccer to hockey talk, but that's an interesting Leafs draft coming up. Absolutely, what's the meme? It's like it's 15-9-11. It's like Arsenal winning the league, and now obviously the Champions League final is coming up. It is like 15-9-11s to me.
It's crazy when they got us rooting for City out here too. It's like City, come on, man. I'm cool with City's won everything. I'm good with City winning again. Just win it again. That's fine. It's cool. We're good out here. It's crazy. I can't even. Chelsea's really playing with Brentford, and I'm watching Arsenal win the Prem. Like, this is nasty work.
Hey, the best teams in the world finish in 15th at least once. The best teams in the world finish 15th once.
No, the fans are definitely unreal. The fans. I'm like, listen, I can't even knock them. It's the same way if the Knicks won the title. Like, if the Knicks win the title, they're gonna burn that city down, and I'm gonna love it because they deserve it. Like at that point, and there is a little like, listen, I'm a Philly sports fan. I empathize well with suffering, but like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, man, it's Arsenal. I can't ever root for that suffering to end. Like, I'm sorry, man. The man's got to have a code at some point.
Something wrong with the Knicks winning over there, Andrew? Is that you seem visibly disgusted?
Wait, hold up. I'd rather the Knicks win than Arsenal win.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Well, I'm a Knicks fan,
call.
so I'd rather the Sixers win anything.
Easy call in the world.
Like, that's terrible.
I think there's only one team in all professional sports I'd rather Arsenal win over, and that's the Cowboys.
They, obviously they won the league over the weekend, or not over the weekend. Was it Tuesday technically?
Whenever Man City lost,
it was Tuesday.
Yeah, it was Tuesday.
Drew. Yeah.
The day before, Pep obviously announcing he's not retiring, even though I think there's nothing left for him to do.
And they're getting Enzo.
Soccer. Maybe a national team.
God, my heart, my Enzo Maresca was my boy. Why did Chelsea? This is what I'm saying. This is what Chelsea's doing. I'm happy about Javi, but I'm like, this is also the same group that hired Liam Rossinier. Like, I'm not happy about this. We had a coach, and then you ran him out because you wouldn't give him the players. So like, why do I think that's suddenly changing here?
Arsenal were a team, it looked like, that were constructed to beat Manchester City. They're all huge. Their back four is huge. Their midfield is huge. They have massive, massive strikers and Mikel Merino and Victor Gyökeres. And it looked like Arteta had really built that team to sort of play out of the back. Steal a goal or two early and sit back and be like, you can't beat us. You're not gonna shoot. You're not gonna put a ball in the back of the net. And say what you will about Arsenal and a lot of favorable decisions towards them this year. And there's every league winner gets a lot of favorable calls in their fashion. It is just awful because the narrative surrounding some of these Arsenal players who truly do not deserve to be in that world-class sort of conversations are now being, they've won a Premier League, so they get to be put in those conversations. It's I watch a ton of soccer. I watch a ton of Arsenal because I like to watch Arsenal. And there really are not too many guys on that squad where I'm just like, that guy is one of the best players in the world at his position. And I am happy for Arsenal fans. I think, it's a long time coming. They have suffered through some pretty horrendous teams and collapses over the last decade. I think a double, a double with the Champions League coming up would be horrendous. I don't see them beating PSG.
PSG, please.
Champions League finals, one leg. It's a winner take all. Obviously, anything can happen.
That's so disgusting.
It's disgusting to think about. It is disgusting to think about, and who I'm happy for the most? Gunnersaurus. That boy deserves everything he gets coming to him these next couple weeks. But we talk about some of these great Arsenal legends, like Thierry Henry, Mesut Ozil, Cesc Fabregas back in the day, and Arsenal for the longest time has had this pretty they play pretty football. They do. They're a fun team to watch. These passes they're silky. And it seems like this Arsenal team, again, was constructed to be like City with brute force. We'll score one in the first 15 minutes of the game, and you're not going to do anything about it, and you're not going to come down and score. And apparently you can win the league like that in a very historically bad Premier League, mind you. But it's, again, the final comment, just awful to watch. I am beside myself.
Kev, I got to know, what's the despair level for you as a Chelsea fan?
Horrible. I'm at an all-time low, and it's crazy for me because I haven't even I started watching soccer in 2019, and so I didn't really catch any of the Prem wins with Hazard and with that whole crew, but I did catch them winning the Champions League early. They won the Champions League in 21 against City. Incredible. Ironically, it's Kai Havertz who's the hero there in that game,
Christian
who's like a
Pulisic
total
also.
goat in Chelsea now. Crazy. Like, yeah, right. Pulisic on that squad, like so many likable guys. Like my guy Tony Rudiger won. Thiago Silva gets a Champions League. Like we love that for everybody. It's been a train wreck. It's only been downhill. I mean, and again, perspective is here, but like, yeah, the war in Ukraine ruined my soccer fandom. Like it's totally like now we got new managers and they don't know what they're doing. So, like, and I guess it's really like, again, perspective matters here a little bit, but like, listen, it's all gone south since then. Are we honest? Like, what did we won? We won the Club World Cup. We got Cole Palmer. Like, they got no identity. We're fired our manager left and right. We spent $9 zillion and like don't have any. We got a conference league. Like this season, we're not even contending in Champions League again. We got bounced out this year. Like, yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy about Hobby. Like for sure. Like I'm happy about that. I think it's a step in the right direction. I certainly love what he did at Leverkusen, obviously. I'm not really too worried about the Real Madrid stuff. That locker room is a mess from what it seems like.
Well, he wasn't even bad there. His record was good.
Yeah,
that's what I mean.
Like the thing about Spain is like it's similar to like it's very similar to Germany where there's like if Real Madrid or Barcelona lose like 2 or 3 games, it feels like it's like college football. It feels like your season's over, or it used to feel like your season's over. Now, obviously, we have expanded playoffs and stuff, but it used to feel like when Real Madrid dropped a game that no one else was talking about anything other than that, because it's like, how do you, like, you're Real Madrid, you're Barcelona, like, how are you losing to like Porto Alves or like Celta Vigo? It's like, a lot of times it just feels like the pressure on those teams is to be perfect. Whereas like you don't really see that in like the Premier League, you don't really see that in like Italy. And it's just like the many different personalities, and now you get to see the biggest personality of them all, Jose Mourinho, managing them. Andrew and I, and obviously I guess you can speak to it as well, Kevin, of like a Mourinho managed team. There's some firecrackers there always.
Absolute cinema, and that's just that. I mean, that's where you're going to end it on. It's going to be absolute cinema. If nothing else, it will be entertaining. Hopefully, if nothing else for you, this podcast was entertaining. Justin will be back next week. Thank you again to my guys, Mason, Andrew. We'll see you guys soon.